Matt Walsh revisits his What is a Woman interview with Dr. Forcier.
Well, you know, we talked to a lot of people for my film, What is a Woman, which is streaming now exclusively on the Daily Wire. And you go to whatisawoman.com and get signed up, and you can watch the film right now. Many of the conversations we had were unintentionally hilarious. Many were disturbing. Veering significantly over to the disturbing end of the spectrum is my interview with Dr. Michelle Forcier, who is, as you'll hear her proudly identify herself, a gender-affirming pediatrician and also an abortionist. We flew up to...
A doctor is a gender-affirming abortionist? Why is a doctor gender-affirming? You're there to treat me, not fucking help out my delusion by telling me yes? Nonsense. You gotta watch this documentary. Shout out Matt Walsh.
Providence, Rhode Island, to speak with Dr. Forcier. She was, you know, friendly enough at first. And what we found in many of the interviews that you'll see in What is a Woman is that gender ideologues are very polite and nice right up until the moment when you express any skepticism at all. But before we get to that point, where things really start to sort of fall apart, let's get to know Michelle a little bit. Watch.
My name is Michelle Forcier, and I have a medical degree from University of Connecticut, residency.
Blue hair, this is what age 3, L3 Ethan Decline's fans look like. Exactly like this. In chat, quickly, WL, should a doctor be allowed to be gender affirming? Should a doctor be an abortionist?
University of Utah Pediatrics, and I've worked for a number of different Planned Parenthoods for 20 years.
Wait, maybe I just sounded dumb. Is all the people at Planned Parenthood doctors? Probably. But classifying yourself as an abortionist is a different story.
I do advanced contraception and abortion, as well as gender hormones, and sort of looking at the whole sort of schema of gender, sex, and...
So she kills babies and changes your gender.
And reproductive justice.
So you've done a lot of work in this field. Could you just start by telling us?
Sure.
At what age can a child first begin to transition into another gender or identify themselves as a gender different from how they were born?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's research and data that show that babies and infants understand differences in gender. Some children figure out their gender really early, and the reason why we say, oh, it's interesting or important is because they're figuring out their gender identity is not necessarily congruent with their sex assigned at birth.
When the doctor sees the penis and says, this is a male, has the sex of male, that's an arbitrary distinction.
Telling that family, based on that little penis, that your child is absolutely 100% male identified.
That's exactly what a male is. And this doctor wants a baby to decide.
No matter what else occurs in their life, that's not correct.
So what is gender affirmation care? You're a big proponent of. If we walk through, a child is sitting down with you, is questioning.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, a child, not a grown adult. You got to be 18 to vote, 21 to drink a beer, 18 to go to war. But you could be a child and snip your dick off and take puberty blockers and hormones.
Their gender. What's the gender affirmation process?
Affirmation means that as a pediatrician, as someone who says my job is to provide the best medical care for you, is I need to listen really carefully. And how I put it in words for kids so that they can understand it is, tell me your story. Where have you been in terms of your gender and your gender identity? Where are you right now? And more excitingly, where would you like to be in the future?
Have you ever met a 4-year-old who believes in Santa Claus?
Mm-hmm.
So this is someone who believes that a fat man is traveling through the sky on a flying reindeer at lightning speed, coming down his chimney with presents.
Yeah.
Would you say that this is someone who maybe has a tenuous grasp on reality?
They have an appropriate 4-year-old handle on the reality that's very real for them.
Agreed. But Santa Claus is real for them.
These people are literally, this doctor, literally a demon. Wants you to kill your baby and wants to manipulate your child with her delusion. She's like a literal witch. Come here, kid. I'll cut it off. I'll make you feel better. Kill the baby, too. Kill the pig. Step off the clit. I will hear, okay? I'm a doctor with blue hair. Literal demons.
But Santa Claus is not actually real.
Yeah, well, but Santa Claus does deliver their Christmas presents.
Well, yeah, but he's not real, though.
To that child, they are.
Evil! Evil!
When I see a child who, believes in Santa Claus, and then let's say this is a boy and he says, I'm a girl. Mm-hmm. This is someone who can't distinguish between fantasy and reality, so how could you take that as a reality?
I would say that as a pediatrician and as a parent, I would say how wonderful my 4-year-old and their imagination is.
One of the hardest things as we did this film, especially in interviewing somebody like that, is not, like, my instinct just to yell at them.
That's what I do. Witch! Burn you at the stake! But look at him, remaining rational. He did a great job of that. That's why this documentary is so good.
To begin with. But that's not what it's kind of a short film if it's just me going around yelling at people. The objective here is to ask questions, and that's all we did through the whole film. Is ask questions. And let gender ideology
just ask questions and let themselves talk their delusion out on camera.
Essentially hang itself is the idea. And to show, is this something that can withstand scrutiny or not? Even just basic scrutiny. And what we discovered is that it can't. So what's happening in that exchange is, first of all, she says, talking about a child who sits down with her, is she wants to know about their gender journey and where would you like to be in the future? So she's talking about a child's 5-year gender plan.
And these people won't go to jail, but you see how quickly they can manipulate your child? They have no idea what they're talking about, these kids. They're sitting there with the nice blue hair lady. Yeah, I want to be an astronaut. Yeah. Do you want me to cut your pee-pee off? Yeah. Okay, take these pills. I have the solution. She should rot in prison for the rest of her life, but she thinks it's good. Or she's just really twisted, but I think she actually thinks it's good.
But the point I was trying to get across to her is that children don't have a grasp on reality. I mean, even if in theory people could choose their own gender, which they can't, but if they could, it wouldn't make sense to say that a child could choose it. Children believe in Santa Claus. So what do they know about reality?
Nothing.
If a child is 4 years old and believes that not only Santa Claus is real, but that fairies and dragons, and lives appropriately in this kind of fantasy world, and then the boy says that I'm a girl, that claim exists within the same fantasy world. This is just imagination. This is a kid who just doesn't understand the distinction between fantasy and reality. So how can they make these determinations? But then again, as we found there, Michelle wouldn't even affirm that Santa doesn't exist. So I was unclear about that also. Like, do you actually think that Santa exists?
A real pediatrician. So easily you can hand her off. You can say, okay, get a checkup, and then they come back a different gender. You got to be really careful what you do with your children now. You got to be really careful who watches them. It's not just out of paranoia. It's out of reality for what the agenda is pushing. They want to make your kids weird.
What's happening? But it's as you're talking to these people, it's like your own. You feel yourself going slightly insane. So it was a pretty bewildering exchange there, but it only gets weirder from here. Let's keep watching. Male gametes. That's what makes me male.
No, your sperm don't make you male.
Then what does?
It's a constellation.
A constellation like the fucking stars.
In reality, in truth, okay?
Whose truth are we talking?
My truth. It's my truth.
Talking about?
The same truth that says we're sitting in this room right now, you and I.
No, you're not listening.
If I see a chicken laying eggs and I say that's a female chicken laying eggs, did I assign female, or am I just observing a physical reality that's happening in the world?
Does a chicken have gender identity? Does a chicken cry?
Well,
Does a chicken commit suicide?
What the fuck is she talking about?
Because you're trying
to... Chicken has sex like any biological organism.
Chicken has an assigned gender, but a chicken doesn't have a gender identity.
So we assign female to chickens when they lay eggs?
We assume they're female if they lay eggs.
That right
is the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
There will go down for me as maybe one of the most probably, and every other thing that makes it on this particular list also happened in the film, but certainly one of the most outrageous exchanges I've ever had with anybody. And of course, see, this is what happens when you start asking questions to the proponent of gender ideology, is they end up backing themselves into various corners. And
a doctor, a practicing doctor right now said that.
Have to make increasingly more wild sort of claims to get themselves out of the corners that they've backed themselves into. And so when you're talking about sex, for example, like it's all on a spectrum, and sex is something that is, as she says in our conversation, she says that sex is assigned at birth, that just like doctors are just deciding this kind of arbitrarily. Well, if that's the nature of sex, then what about other organisms aside from human beings? Okay, we would also say that when a chicken is laying eggs, oh, well, that's a female chicken. Are we assigning that? Is that just something we've decided that the chicken is female?
You see how when you apply that logic to anything, how reality is just made up in your head now? It's like, oh, this is a bottle of lotion. No, I assigned the word lotion to it. But at birth, you don't know. Baby, it's my truth that... And then what?
Or is the chicken female? And if the chicken is female, then that would tell us something about the nature of biological sex, which is that it's not assigned, it is observed. But she can't go along with that, and so she starts talking about the chicken's gender identity and whether chickens commit suicide. And it doesn't get much better from there. Well, last week, Kim Kardashian announced her new role as Chief Taste Consultant for Beyond Meat, an alternative meat maker. According to a Bloomberg report, this is a last-ditch effort for the nation.
So medical...
What age does the medical transition begin with medication?
So medical affirmation begins when the patient says they're ready for it. So that could be...
So never, just whenever they feel like it, when they're ready for it?
A kiddo who is just starting puberty and panicking because they're getting breast buds or their penis...
Everybody's panicking when they start puberty. That's a natural part of it. And this witch, this literal walking devil demon, come here, I'll snip off your titties. Let them just go through, it's growing pains. You know how many people in America genuinely believe this stuff?
This is getting bigger and busier, and they're worried about all kinds of masculine changes. And that way, puberty blockers, which are completely reversible and don't have permanent effects, are wonderful because we can put that pause on puberty. Just like if you were listening to music, you put the pause on and we stop the block.
Chat, WRL, is she a literal walking demon?
And puberty would go right back to where it was. The next note in the song just delayed that period of time.
So this is a part from later in the film as we start getting into more of the specifics here about puberty blockers. And I'm not going to say myself right now a lot in response to that because you have to go watch the film. Because, as I said, I'm asking questions, and we don't just ask questions of people on this side. We bring in other people. So there's a little bit of a back and forth here, but we're going to get a response in the film to this claim that puberty can just be, just pause it, as she says, like music. Does the human...
Sorry, I didn't specify. W, she's the demon.
...body work that way? I mean, is that the way it works? Where you can take a drug to intentionally interfere with
your puberty. And this is what you're supposed to believe in now. Lonely Mind, she's probably a famous artist. You see this donation right here? As a female artist who works in animation and digital art, I have a huge audience, and your content is a relief from the woke BS. I fear cancel culture. So you know what she did? She's probably famous, and she got a burner account just to say, like, oh my God, I need a break from this. Because this, puberty blockers, witches, literal witches taking your children and converting them into demography. That's normal. That's the standard now. What I'm saying is controversial. Separate yourself from these witch demons. Puberty blockers and my truth. You know, that's why they call me every YouTuber's favorite YouTuber. Because someone like this lonely man, I don't know who the fuck that is, but people can't even support me publicly because they will get canceled. So fuck the people saying that I switched up. I've always had these beliefs, and now I could do it in shorter form. And also longer form too, I can stream and talk about it. But you're not supposed to hear this. This is not the agenda. The agenda is what the fuck that doctor's saying. So people need to make a burner account to say, yo, thank you, because this shit is the truth. Not the blue-haired witches taking your kids away from you.
Certain normal, healthy processes, and you could take, and then there's no negative consequences at all. Just stop taking the drug and pick up where you left off. Which, of course, the interesting thing is that even if that was true, which it isn't, as you'll see in the film, but even if it was true, well, then wouldn't that mean, I mean, if a child's taking puberty blockers to stop their normal development, and then we're just putting it on pause for, let's say, 5 years, and then they decide that, okay, I don't want to take this anymore, well, at a minimum, now they're going to be 5 years behind in their growth and development. So even according to her version of events, like at a minimum, you're going to have stunted growth and you're going to have someone who is behind in their physical development. But actually, the consequences are a lot worse than that, as we discover in the film and as we get into in this next exchange about the puberty blockers themselves. What are they? What do they do? What is their actual purpose? Let's watch that.
One of the drugs used is Lupron, right? Which has actually been used to chemically castrate sex offenders.
You know what? I'm not sure that we should continue with this interview because it's...
She cannot even... Look at that demon. Look at this demon right here. Let me put it right next to you. You fucking demon. What's your name one more time? Dr. Forcier. She cannot even talk about the medication she's giving children, which is the same to castrate criminals. Because it's... You know what? It's kind of problematic. You're giving this medication to kids. If you are too afraid to talk about the medication that you're giving children, go to jail. I hope you rot in prison. No, genuinely, fuck, no, I hope you don't. You can't pray on anybody's downfall. I hope that she just never does this again, and I hope she loses her license as a doctor.
Seems like it's going in a particular direction.
Well, you're a medical professional.
I am a medical professional.
So you don't want to talk about the drugs that you give to kids, or?
Again, I'm a physician and I use medication. You're choosing exploitive words. Drugs.
Exploitive words.
Drugs I give to
drugs. That's what the fuck it is, demon.
Use medication. You're choosing exploitive words. Drugs I give to kids.
I'm choosing a
chemical
word that was in a dictionary.
That's not a correct term for puberty blocking.
I could look it up on my phone, but I'm pretty sure.
That's not. That's exactly what it is. Doctors, chat. Doctors.
If I looked it up, like,
you can look it up on your phone.
It says medical definition: the administration of a drug to bring about a marked reduction in the body's production of androgens and especially testosterone.
And I'm saying, as a pediatrician who takes care of hundreds of these kids, when you use that terminology, you are being malignant and harmful.
I mean, there are some who would say that giving chemical castration drugs to kids is malignant and harmful.
It's about the context of caring for a child and seeing the...
They don't even care. Look at this demon. It's the context. Even doctors are putting feelings over facts. Not even the kid's feelings, because the kid doesn't even know better. Her feelings about gender is more important than medical information.
The suffering that kids can have that have not been in affirmative home situations.
So that was...
Chat, this is literally a demon walking.
Allahu Akbar!
Cleanse yourself. I need holy water. Sprinkle it.
This is the part in our conversation where things got a...
Let me get some demon in the chat. Put the demon emoji in the chat. Dr. Forcier, you're going to see this. Someone's going to send it to you. 10,000 people watching this. We all think you're a demon. And I don't want you to go to jail. I don't want to pray in the downfall of anybody else. I think you should lose your medical license. And I hope that everybody here never has to put their kid with you. You don't deserve to be around my kid. Fuck that, Dr. Forcier. Shame! Shame! I bet you would shrivel if I sprinkled holy water on you.
Bit contentious, but I wouldn't say that's when they started to get contentious. Actually, what we discovered in doing these interviews is that, I kind of knew going in, I had certain points in mind where I thought, okay, well, when I ask this question,
and not you, Matt Walsh. There's a delay on my stream. They're putting the demons for the lady.
Things might get a little bit tense, and I kind of know, well, because that's more of a challenging question.
Keep spamming the demons so she sees this.
And what I found so often in these interviews is that things got tense much earlier than I originally thought they would, because there were questions that I thought would be really easy for the person that I'm talking to that turned out not to be easy at all. Questions like, what's the difference between sex and gender? These are like, that's supposed to be a softball. But even that, things start to go off the rails in a lot of these interviews when I ask even a question like that. Because what we found is that these people, these gender ideologues, especially the ones who are in this industry, and they're making a lot of money off of promoting gender confusion, especially in kids, it's that what we found is that they are not prepared to encounter any
pushback,
skepticism at all. They're not prepared to answer any questions. The only questions they're prepared to answer are the questions that are not really questions at all, right?
Okay, chat, more demons for her.
Questions like, how meaningful is it to you to be able to help people in their gender journey? Like that, those kind of questions, where it's just a setup for them to give a pre-planned, canned, speech. So by the time we got to this exchange, it had already gotten pretty tense. And of course, I asked her about Lupron. Now, this is a drug that she gives to kids. And as we hear from somebody else in the film, Scott Nugent, who has experience with these kinds of drugs, personal experience, this drug in particular is a drug. It is actually, by definition, chemical castration.
No, that word is malignant and problematic and toxic.
Which is why I wasn't planning on doing this, but I pulled out my phone, look up the definition of chemical castration. She says that chemical castration, that's a exploitative word, and I'm being malignant and harmful by using that word. Well, look up the definition of chemical castration, and that is a puberty blocker. That is, by definition, when you give a kid a puberty blocker, you are performing chemical castration on the kid, period. And we know that because the Lupron...
Ah! Look at the Illuminati! Ah!
Specifically, has been used to chemically castrate sex offenders. You notice in that exchange, by the way, she didn't deny. She takes issue with the words that I'm using. She threatens to get up and storm out. She's offended by the way that I'm phrasing it, the words. But she never says, oh no, that's totally incorrect. Lupron does not do that. Lupron's never been used that way. Doesn't say that, because she can't. I don't have to tell you that gas prices are really high right now. You've probably noticed yourself every time you go to the pump. Now that's code
Shut
woman,
up.
And which is, what is a woman? And probably is not going to surprise you by now that she doesn't exactly have an answer for it. But let's listen to what she
Okay, now can we get more demons? Now she's finally back on the screen. This guy's chatting right now, I ain't gonna lie.
comes up with.
So we're going on this journey. Boys can be girls, girls can be boys, men can be women, women can be men. It makes me wonder.
Look at her face. Does that not look demonic to you? Do you see that evil smile? Puberty blockers. Give me your children. I'll make them better with my chemicals. I'll castrate your kids. I'll puberty block them. I'll gender affirm them. Yes. Give me your kids. Give me your children. Give me your abortion. Evil face, man. There's something off about that. I swear to God, bro.
What is a woman?
What is a woman? A woman is someone who claims that as their identity. It could be many things to many people.
That was her answer. Well, a woman is anyone. And that was, by the way, not to give any spoilers away, but that is the answer from the left to the question, which is a non-answer. It's the same thing as not.
It's whatever you want. That's why this documentary is great. When you find a question that good, that would have been a great 1 minute podcast question. What is a woman? And wokies, they don't know because they don't have to confront it. They just feel that it's my truth and I identify here, and gender's not always put in a spectrum because they just assign it. What is a woman? They don't know. Brilliant question. One question can expose their bullshit. That's enough of that. Matt Walsh keeps talking.
Not answering it at all. But that is the answer. A woman is someone who says they're a woman. And of course, to everyone who gives me that answer in the film, I have the follow-up. Well, a woman is someone who identifies as a woman. What are they identifying as? And around we go. Because they don't have an answer to the question. This is a medical doctor who can't tell you what a woman is. I mean, this is someone who if someone goes to her and says, as a man, and says, I'm really a woman and I want to transition into a woman, she will help facilitate that process, and yet she doesn't know what the word means. She doesn't actually know. She, by her own
L-stream. Oh, shit. Okay.
testimony, when someone says, I want to transition to a woman, she doesn't even know what that means. Like, what are you transitioning into? She has no idea. As we found over and over again in the film. And that was just a few minutes of the film.
Okay, enough of that. All right, there's this fucking overweight dude who's coping and like has a sad existence and who gave up and is probably going to have cholesterol problems, but I hope he doesn't. I hope he gets better, but he won't because he's lazy and he hates himself so much that he puts his head on other people.
That's it.
Your job?